Erin, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
So why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and where you were in your career when kids showed up.
Sure. So my name's Erin Brenner. I'm the Chief Product Development Officer at Pear Therapeutics based in Boston. I have two boys, Christopher and Drew. They're 15 and 11. And my husband, Jamie, and I have been married for 21 years, and he works as well. So we're a two-career family. So kids came into the picture when I was working at GE Healthcare for a long time, and Christopher was born when I was in a product management role at GE, and then Drew came along actually at a career pivot point, still at GE, but when I was switching from one job to another, and really always interesting times to make multiple transitions at the same moment.
So you're in an interesting situation where you're a mom and you're an employee and you're a manager, right?
Right.
So how have your managers best supported you through your parenting journey?
It's a really great question. I'm really happy to be able to talk about this topic because I had two wonderful managers at really pivotal points in my career when both of my boys were born. So Tim was my manager when Christopher was born, and George was my manager when Drew was born. And I'd love to just tell a few things about what they did that made it really easy for me to be able to work through those transitions, or easier. They weren't easy times, but when I was pregnant with Christopher, it was my first baby, and you're embarking on this giant change, and you don't really know what to expect, and things feel overwhelming. And he was early, and there was a lot going on, and Tim just made me say, like, look, you're going to take your maternity leave, check out, don't worry about us at all, take some extra time if you want it, and when you come back, ease into it a little bit. So if you want to work from home for a couple days a week, do that. And this was 2007, so working from home was not quite as common as it is now. If you even, I was coming back in the summer, and he's like, if you need a little bit of extra flex time in the summer as you're getting your childcare, just don't worry about it. We know we know this is a big transition, and work it out, and you're a great employee, and we'll figure it out over time. And I think just having that sort of support and trust from my manager, and just knowing that, hey, this is all brand new, we've never done it before, and there are a lot of things that you never thought about before that you have to work through, and having his support was absolutely critical for me. Christopher was born in February. I came back to work, I think, at the end of June, and by September I kind of worked through all of those transitions and was sort of back into a normal rhythm. But I think if I had had to feel like I had to have it all figured out on my first day back after 12 weeks of maternity leave, it would have been overwhelming, and maybe too overwhelming. So I really am thankful that Tim took that approach at that pivot point. And then, fast forward 3.5 years, and I was expecting Drew, and I got tapped to apply for a job internally at GE. And so I was 4 months pregnant when I interviewed for the job. And so I talked to George and said, well, if I come on board, I'm going to have like a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And then my 120-day plan is going to be to have a baby and go on maternity leave. Like, how's that going to work? And I remember he said, Erin, we want you for the long term, not for, 3 months from now. So we'll figure it out. He said, I know that maternity leave will feel long to you, but it'll be over before anybody else knows about it. So don't worry about it. We'll get through it. And so I think, again, that sort of, we want you for the long term. There might be some bumps and bruises along the way in the transition, but we'll figure it out, and don't worry, I think was huge for me in terms of trying to make sure I could set the team up to be good without me for 3 or 4 months, and then to be able to kind of enter back in when I came back to work. And so I think Tim and George were both really important in my career. And one other thing is that George also had 3 kids himself. And he was very transparent about modeling when he was making time to be with his family, right? He had a big job, he traveled a lot, but sometimes you'd hear him just say, hey, I actually can't make that meeting right now because I need to go to my daughter's concert, or I need to be at my son's game, or whatever. And just those little things of making it okay for everybody else, that this vice president with a big job makes time for his family too, was, I think, that modeling that for employees made that okay for everybody to do, which I appreciate.
What advice do you have for new managers in supporting employees through changes in both their work and personal lives?
So I think that transitions are among the hardest periods, no matter what the transition is. When you're doing things for the first time, it's always really hard. And so I think what I have appreciated about the managers that I've worked with is acknowledging that and saying it's not going to be perfect the first day, and nobody expects that, right? So, so give yourself some time. Give yourself the chance to have trial and error. Get the feedback, whatever. Keep that line of communication open. I think managers can also be proactive about asking your employee, how's it going? How are you doing? Red, yellow, green. How are you feeling today? Is there any support that you need? What can I do to support you as you're going through these transitions? And then I think that modeling time for whatever it is that's important to you in your personal life, whether it's your family or whether it's making time for a yoga class or a PTO or play softball or whatever. I think that especially when we all work as hard as we do, and the boundaries between work and life get blurred, being able to be transparent about that, of like, hey, yes, I work really hard, but I take time once in a while to go do this, makes it okay for everyone else. And I think that that's important for supporting employees in any type of change, whether that's coming back from parental leave or whether that's other things that they might be experiencing.
If you could wave a magic wand, what policies or changes to the workplace would you make that would make a difference for working moms?
So I think that we need policies that work for working families altogether, and I think that includes both moms and dads. And I think if you look at my scenario right now, where my husband is doing most of the heavy lifting at home, but is also working full time, he's the one that needs more flexibility in this particular part of our journey than I do to make our family work, right? Because someone's got to keep all the plates spinning right now. And there have been other times in our journey that it's been me who's been the one keeping all the balls in the air. So I think really having that flexibility and transparency for working families, in addition to working moms, is something that we need to do to support all of us, and to be able to support women being able to move into bigger jobs, but also be able to have a family at the same time. So I think for me, that piece of having that support for working parents, period, is really important.
It was great talking to you, and this was so much fun. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your insights and stories with us.
Thank you so much for having me.